Okay, well, welcome to the final day of my Monster a Day challenge. It is October 31st. That means it's Halloween. I've got my Jack Skellington t-shirt on, and that means it's the last day, the final day, the 31st day of my Monster a Day challenge. And every day I've been showing up for about an hour, making a different type of monster. And here during this last week, I've been just kind of focusing on drawing, even though yesterday I got into a little bit of painting. And today I might get into some painting as well. Originally, I had this idea, it's October 31st, it's Halloween, to do some kind of more Halloween inspired monster. But then I had a special request. I'm not going to go into exactly who requested it, but and what it was about. But basically, I was asked if I could do a basically a daddy monster and a baby monster. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of create two monsters for the price of one, I guess. So anyway, I'm just going to kind of sketch it out like I have been, outline it with my pen, and then I'm going to paint it. So nothing grand, nothing amazingly different than what I've done before, but just kind of want to share that with you. So if you've been thinking like, oh, well, having one monster is great, but having more than one monster might be kind of cool too, I want to kind of show you that. So let's go ahead and switch over, and I will go ahead and get started. So of course I've got my Strathmore mixed media paper. I've got my pencil. I've got my pen. I've got my eraser, and I've got my paints off to the side. So thinking about like a big monster and a little monster. That's kind of what I'm thinking of. I'm trying to think how do I want to have the monster in the middle with the little child monster in the front. That's how I'm thinking of it. Not so much as a baby, but more as a little kid monster, a little child, little monsterette, monsterlet. I don't know. Anyway, or I could think. Actually, I'm kind of thinking about what if it was like, the big monsters off to the side and the little monsters, then it kind of creates a triangular composition. So I can't help but think about those compositional ideas. So just like always, I'm going to start off with my pencil. I have no idea what I am going to make or what kind of monster. Kind of think kind of like maybe a longer, skinnier monster. So before I get too much into the details on this, actually, let me adjust my lighting just a little bit. That's the issue with this. Sometimes it's like, oh, I don't have it adjusted just right. I'm sketching lightly. That's kind of the issue here. But okay, I'll try to sketch maybe just a little bit darker. And then I want to have a child monster, a little monster. Just kind of thinking. Alright, so I got the shapes of the two monsters kind of sketched out. Let me erase that, make that a little bit more solid. Alright, so thinking about the daddy monster. Give him some big teeth. So I'm thinking about those general kind of standard monster conventions that I have. The big eyes, the rings around the eyes, the slightly cross-eyed eyes. It's like thinking like maybe the monster has his arm around the kid. I have this space down here. I don't think Don't like that. I have very little space up here, bigger space down here. So I either want to make, I think I just want to make him a little bit longer. Have the little kid a little bit longer. And that way I just have less space down at the bottom. Alright. Okay, there we go. It's a little bit better with the spacing. And get some horns in there. Of course, he's going to go, that horn's going to go out of the frame. All right. And I kind of feel like I want, you know, he's going out of the frame here. I think like the little kid monster maybe have like a tail that kind of is going out of the frame just to help balance it out. And then like maybe just like one tooth for the kid. Okay, so I got the monster sketched in, turned into my handy dandy Pitt Artist pen, the super fine. So one of the things that I find, and maybe I mentioned this before, but as I'm outlining, I try to do the outlining fairly quickly. I don't try to sit there and go real slow to try to make it perfect, because I feel like that actually doesn't work when you try to go super slowly and outline. You can end up shaking a lot. So I just find that if I go quickly and confidently, and I just remember hearing a potter actually talk about how the best lines are ones that are made with confidence. And so even if you're off a little bit, you know, I love that kind of wonkiness that things are off a little bit. But even if you are off a little bit, if it's done with confidence, it's just going to look better. If you're trying to be so careful, it sometimes you do shake. Sometimes it doesn't turn out as well as you had hoped, because you're trying to be too careful. So as you're outlining, just kind of think about that. Like, okay, let me just, you know, I've got multiple lines here, so which one? Well, it's kind of the outside one. Just do it kind of quickly. Same thing as I want to do the mouth, the lip first, and then do the teeth. So it's like I have to commit with the pen. With the pencil, it's rough and it's sketchy. But that's the beauty of pencil. Pen, though, it's like I've got to I've got to commit. Alright, I think I'm going to do the little monster before I do anything else. I think with the kid monster, maybe a little bit of hair or something. Now there, I was a little bit off. Didn't quite go as smoothly as I wanted it. That kind of a little bump there. But I can go back and I can fix that as I thicken the lines later. So that's the other thing, is having that confidence that, like, okay, if things don't go exactly as planned, I can go back and I can fix them. Okay. Since I'm doing two monsters with this one, I'm just going to try to keep things a bit more simple. And see, before I go on, let's go ahead and put some small details in. Alright. Maybe some stripes. Alright. So outline, now erasing time. And I just always want to kind of go slowly and carefully when I erase. Too often, either I've done it or I've seen students do it, where they're erasing and trying to go real fast, and then when you go off the edge and you come back on, a lot of times you can wrinkle the paper. This paper is going to be a little bit harder to do that because it's so thick. But yeah, I just see that happen a lot. It's like, yeah, it takes a while to do it, but it's worth just kind of going slowly, trying to get all the pencil marks. I like the white vinyl eraser, so I have, my click eraser, and but I also have some big kind of rectangular or oval type vinyl erasers as well. Of course, I don't have those handy right now. So, those are a little bit bigger, the big rectangular ones. So one thing when I sketch with a pencil, I try to sketch so lightly that I'm not putting an indentation in the paper. That happens a lot. Like if you press pretty hard with a pencil, you end up with these indentations, and then when you paint, or especially if you're using like crayon or colored pencil, those indentations will show up. All right. Just looking it over, seeing if I missed any pencil. Usually as I'm painting, I'll find a place where I missed a little bit, but that's all right. Okay, so there's the daddy and kid monster. All right, so now I've got my paint. Go ahead and paint that. And I'm thinking it's going to move this over. Okay. So it's like, what do I start with? I think what I'll do is I'll start with the little monster. So like a lot of times, so I've got a couple different brushes. I've got a slightly smaller one, and that's fine. A little too much water. So if I want to do a little bit of shading, what I can do is while the paint's wet, go in, get a little bit of darker paint. And just try to put in a little bit of shadow. Now what I want to do is rinse out my brush, get rid of a lot of the water, and then just blend it out. And then it's just a little bit darker. But it's a good idea to blend that out before it dries. Sometimes if it dries, you end up with a kind of a line, more of a stripe. if I want it lighter, I just dip my brush in the water. And I can make it go from dark to light. And then if I want it darker again, just pick up more paint. So one thing as I'm painting this in, I've got to be aware of the wet paint. And so since I have two monsters now, I mean, this pink is touching a lot of this monster. So I really want to pay attention to where I'm painting so I don't get any weird bleeding. So I'm thinking, turn this around, just a little bit of this ochre. going to switch to a bigger brush. Still, it's a round brush, has a nice point to it. And let's go with this yellowish orange. I like having the mouth like this when I paint because it's easier to kind of divide the monster into parts as I paint. So just like I've done before, I want the spots to be a darker color so that way I can just paint right over top and I don't have to worry about trying to paint around all those little tiny spots. One thing with this paint, I am trying to get a little bit of shading in it, but if it doesn't look perfect, that's okay. It's watercolor. Kind of feel like the arm needs to just I think I'll let that dry a little bit. I'm thinking that the pink is dry enough. Okay. So I want the lip to be lighter, so I'm just going to add a lot of water. I just realized I forgot to paint the little tail over there. I'll have to remember to do that. Okay. I want to do the spots on the little monster purple, but unfortunately the purple that comes with this, there's kind of like a real dark, I think they call it dusty purple or something like that. So I'm going to switch to my core paints because I know this has a real nice violet. I feel like I have too much water in my brush, so I'm just going to grab I wish I had a piece of paper towel, which I don't. It's actually a really good idea to have a paper towel when you're painting with watercolor, but I don't have one here. And I just feel like I got too much water, especially in these first couple that I painted. So if I wipe out the brush, then I can kind of soak up some of that paint and some of that water. Even though I use watercolor a lot in my work, I don't really feel that confident in it, especially something like this. In my mixed media work, I'm very confident because I want it to do like weird stuff, unpredictable stuff. But in something like this, it's like, but I want it to be a certain way, or at least more of a certain way. Okay. And I'm thinking, have this kind of cooler red, I think. I think I'll use the same red, but maybe just a little bit less intense. Okay. And I think for the big guy, I'm going to use this orange for the spots. And I think I want to use the same orange. So I think that's dry enough. I'm going to use this red. And then I think the last little detail is just a little bit of this ochre. Okay, so I think the painting's done. Let me get the paint out of the way. And then I do need to outline it, so I'm going to speed up the drawing time. Let me go ahead and mute this so it doesn't get too. Okay, so you may have noticed I flipped it over and hit it with the hair dryer just to kind of help flatten it out a little bit. So pull out some of my pens. And so it's just from here, it's like you've seen me do this before if you've tuned in. using this thicker pen, especially on the outside, is a great way to cover up all those little spots where I went outside of the line. It's also a great way to cover up all the little white specks that I didn't fill with paint, where two colors kind of butt up against each other. Let's go ahead and hit this up. Getting there. All right, I think this one is done. You can go ahead and sign it. All right, so that's it. My Monster Day challenge is over. So 31 days of making monsters, and it's been great coming and being able to sit down for an hour each day to make monsters, and it's been great sharing with you. So I really appreciate those of you that have been tuning in live, those of you that have been tuning in on YouTube to the recorded videos. And I appreciate anybody who has shared their monsters. I really love seeing what you or your kids or your students or whoever is doing with these. So yeah, if you're sharing on social media, make sure you tag me. I'd love to see them. If you want to share in the comments, like on Facebook and places like that, awesome as well. Love seeing what you are doing. So that kind of wraps it up for, well, it doesn't kind of, it does wrap it up for my Monster Day challenge. I have an idea for November, but it's not going to be as sort of structured as this one was. But I do still plan on making art every day in November, so stay tuned for that. And but yeah, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Really, I loved sitting down every day and making monsters. So I hope you did too. Yeah, so as always, thank you so much, and happy creating, and of course, happy Halloween to everyone. Stay safe, and catch you later then.